In this video, I'm going to list the top 5 deductions for fishing and hunting guides. I based the rankings off of what I believe will be the highest deductions for the average fishing or hunting guide. So number 1 is going to be vehicle miles. So anytime you have to drive from your home, which is likely going to be your home office, and it's going to be your principal place of business, to say a river or a trailhead, you can deduct the miles traveled there. In order to legally deduct the miles, though, you need to make sure that you're tracking them appropriately. In order to track the miles properly, the IRS wants you to maintain a travel log. This can just be a small notebook, or there are apps that you can use, although I've never used any of them. If you go the notebook route, what you need to include in your log is the date, starting odometer, starting location, ending odometer, ending location, purpose of the trip, and miles driven. You're also going to want to record your odometer reading at the start and the end of the year, because they also take into account the total miles driven on the tax return, and then they figure out the percentage that are business miles. This log should be updated in real time, not a day later. It only takes a minute or two to write the information out, so it's not really that big of a deal, and it doesn't need to be extremely detailed. You can just put that you're meeting a client or you're going to the store to buy supplies. In 2025, you're able to deduct 70 cents for every business mile driven, so 2,000 business miles would give you a $1,400 deduction. So number 2 is going to be equipment and gear. So as a business, you're able to deduct your ordinary and necessary business expenses, and gear is included in that. There are a lot of court cases surrounding what can and cannot be deducted, because some items are inherently personal. When it comes to gear and specific clothing, if you can wear it on the street, it's not deductible. An example of this would be a suit, winter jacket, or jeans. Clothing that has a company logo on it is advertising and can be deducted. However, you should not put a small 1x1 logo on it and call it a business expense, as that is likely going to be disallowed in an audit. I haven't looked into it yet, but I would suspect that if you try to deduct your hunter orange gear, it would likely not be upheld, as it is inherently personal. The exception, I believe, would be a vest like this, as it's not something you would typically wear out and about. I would say this vest is very similar to a reflective vest, which you wouldn't wear out on the street for personal use. Since fishing and hunting would be deemed fun activities by the IRS, you're more likely to be audited. Fun activities are usually things related to aircrafts, boats, and traveling. Keeping this in mind, you should be reasonable with the type of gear you buy. If you're doing guided hunts, you probably shouldn't buy a $10,000 custom-made shotgun to hunt with, unless it's an integral part of your business offering. Because if it's not, the IRS will likely say that the gun is inherently personal and you won't be able to deduct it, especially if you're hunting with a $10,000 gun and you give people that you're guiding a normal $800 gun. For fishermen, bait is also deductible, and for hunters, ammunition is too. This is obviously the ammunition or bait you are going to be using on your guides. You cannot deduct the bait or ammunition you use for personal use, as that is tax fraud. Number 3 is going to be marketing and advertising costs. With any business, one of the most important things is that people know you're in business, so advertisements are tax deductible. This can be anything from online ads, newspaper ads, billboards, clothing with your logo and business name on it, or even hiring a marketing agency to run ads for you. Buying a car and wrapping it in an ad for your business does not make the whole car an advertising expense. The wrap for the car can be an advertising expense, but the car needs to have a business purpose to be able to be deducted. Number 4 is going to be lodging and meals. Lodging and meals are what the IRS would consider a fun category, because people try to slip personal expenses into them. If you're renting a hotel or a cabin, it's best to keep the receipt and write down the business purpose for the stay, which is likely that you need to be in the area for a business purpose, such as a trip you're leading. For business meals, only half the expense can be deducted when it is a meal with a client, but if it's a meal included in compensation, then 100% is deductible. It's also important to remember that for business meals, according to the IRS, they should not be lavish or extravagant. And number 5 is going to be professional services. Any professional service you pay for, you can deduct. If you need a lawyer to draft or review a limited liability waiver you want your clients to sign, that is deductible. Having an accountant prepare your taxes is deductible, but it's deductible in the year you pay for it. So your 2024 tax return is prepared for and paid in 2025. So on the 2025 tax return, you can deduct this cost. These are the top 5 deductions for hunting and fishing guides. It's important to remember that these are just 5 examples of deductions you may be able to take. There are other deductions that are ordinary and necessary for your business, such as software expenses or licenses and permits you need. So that's it for the video. If you need help with accounting, I'll post a link to my website below where you can schedule a meeting.